Kirby, you're on with Jenna and Matt. You've left a couple of religions and wanted to talk about that. So welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I was raised in a so-called Christian household by my grandmother. My mother was never religious. She never even talked about religion or God. Most of my family died within a 4-month period between me turning 19 and 20. I banned the Abrahamic God and then started studying Islam on the fringes. In my 30s, ended up in a Christian church, left that because Christianity is exceptionally racist. Jumped into Islam, did a deep dive and found the same thing. It's a racist religion. All Abrahamic religions are. And they're all about control, regardless of what color you are. What they want is control of your mind and your spirit, so to speak, and your pocketbook.
Can I ask where you stand on your belief when it comes to these religions? I mean, I believe that they're racist, but I'm curious, does that mean that you don't believe that they're true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I believe most of what they believe was written down by a man, because no God that would be intelligent enough to create us and this universe would be narrow-minded enough to send anyone to hell.
How do you know that?
For a finite issue.
What makes you believe that that's the case? Because if it's possible that there's a God, I see no reason why that God couldn't be malevolent or even apathetic towards us. There could still be a God that just doesn't care, or maybe that God knows more. So how do you determine that if there is a God, it must in fact be good?
I can't make that determination because I don't know. I was about to tell you, even though I do believe there is a God, that this was all created, I couldn't tell you who did it, why they did it, what the purpose was.
Why do you believe it?
And
yeah, if you don't know anything about
why
it,
do I believe
I'm not
it?
Like,
right.
I definitely want to let you answer, and I want to know why you believe it, because that's interesting, and that's what Jenna asked. My thing here is, I'm not even sure what you believe, because all you've told me is that you believe there's a God, but it's not A, B, C, D, and E. So yeah, what is it you believe and why?
Well, here, well, the way I govern my life, is that what you mean, or something?
No, I want to know what specifically you believe God to be and why you are convinced that it's true.
I believe that God is pure energy. Honestly, I think he used to be a man. He evolved and evolved and evolved, and he created something just like him. And at some point, we will evolve and evolve and evolve. And
can I pause you for just a quick second? I'm so sorry. You're giving us a lot of details, and that's awesome. You know what we want to know exactly. We want to know what you believe. We're curious. But instead of going into all of the details, like metaphorically, the icing on the cake, can we establish that there's a cake? Can we establish why you believe that? You say that he used to be a man. You say that he does this, or he's good, or he's not good. What makes you believe that this being exists at all?
Can't give you tangible reason for its feeling.
Then why do you believe it?
Feeling. Go ahead.
Do you care whether or not? Do you care about what's true? Because there are plenty of feelings that I've had that have turned out to be not true. And so if you believe something because you've got a feeling, that to me sounds like you don't care if it's true.
No, I absolutely care about what's true.
Okay. So let's imagine let's imagine, Kirby, that there's a God out there, and it's not the God that you think it is, which means the God that you believe in isn't the right one. How would you tell the difference? How would you go about figuring out whether your God is true or some other God is true?
I don't know, but as I've heard you say, he would, and if he's real, and he'll explain them, which is why I live pretty much a neutral life as far as religion goes. If you had to pin me down and say, well, what do you believe? Which is what you're saying. I govern myself by the code of Bushido and the Tao. Those two things
I get
keep me from mistreating you and keep me from allowing you to mistreat me.
Yeah, I get that. And as a secular humanist, I would say I use humanism that way. But none of that requires a God. None of that supports a God belief. So, and I don't want to misrepresent you, Kirby, but it seems to me what you're saying is you have a different view of God than almost anybody else you've interacted with or we've interacted with. You have specific things that you feel are true, like this God used to be a man and evolved. Let me point out to you that that's not how evolution works. Individuals do not evolve. I'm not going to evolve into a higher form. Individuals don't evolve. That's not evolution. What evolves is populations. So this notion that your God was once a man but evolved is absolutely nonsense in the sense of biological evolution, and is something for which I think even you would admit you have no evidence for. It's just a feeling. And if you recognize that your feeling could be wrong, why don't you try to find a way to figure out what the truth is?
Figuring out what the truth is simply a matter of opening my mind and not being stuck in dogma.
No, that's not opening your mind and not being dogmatic is not the path to truth. Evidence is the path to truth.
And how do you find evidence? By looking for it. And
exactly. But
if you're stuck in dogma, I get out.
What evidence have you found?
Read.
What evidence have you found, Kirby?
I found no evidence to prove that there is or is not.
Let me ask you this, Kirby.
But
if I thought that Jenna was an axe murderer, and I spent a bunch of time looking for evidence, and I found no evidence that Jenna is an axe murderer, would it be reasonable for me to believe that Jenna is an axe murderer?
No, but would it not still be reasonable to continue to look?
It would be, but you're not saying that you're looking for a God. You're saying you believe there is a God.
Well, let's do one even further. Let's say that it's not me that's the axe murderer. It's Daniel who's sitting to my left right here. He's the axe murderer, and you can't even prove that he exists. But I'm trying to convince you that he's an axe murderer.
I'm not going to debate that. I can't because I don't know Daniel. I've never seen Daniel, and as you said, I don't know if he exists or not. You know, and I don't want you to get me wrong and think that I'm trying to say that I absolutely 100% know that there is a God.
You shouldn't be able to say you 0% know. You don't know. So if somebody asked you, Kirby, are you convinced that a God exists? Your answer at this point should be no, because you don't have the justification for a yes. Right. So it's like if I asked you, Kirby, do you believe that Jenna is an axe murderer?
No, I'd tell you I believe Jenna's cute as hell, but not an axe murderer.
Okay. So now you've gone off the rails to addressing how someone looks rather than the issue at hand. The point was not about how Jenna looks or does she look nice. I agree. Jenna's a wonderful person. I know her personally, so she's beautiful to me, no matter how cute she is or anything else. The issue here is if, in fact, you don't have good reason to believe that Jenna's an axe murderer, then when somebody says, Kirby, do you believe Jenna's an axe murderer? Your answer should be,
I don't know. She could.
No. Yeah. And your answer should be no, I don't have evidence that Jenna's an axe murderer, therefore I won't believe it, right?
No, my answer would be I don't know whether she is or is not.
That's fair.
And
I could say that's fair.
everything is possible.
I would accept that.
But I didn't ask what
But
you
it-
knew. I asked what you believed to be. I asked what you believed to be true, Kirby.
I have no reason to believe or disbelieve it.
Stop saying I have no reason to believe or disbelieve. Disbelief is the default position. Do you run around assuming everybody's an axe murderer until they're proven not to be? Or do you assume that nobody's an axe murderer until they're proven to be?
Let me rephrase that. I go around assuming everyone is a potential enemy until they show me that they're not.
I don't know why, Kirby, you're refusing to answer the question that you're asked. Did I say anything about potential? I don't give a rat's fucking... Stop, Kirby. I don't give a rat's fucking ass about potential. I didn't ask about potential. I didn't ask, do you believe Jenna is potentially an axe murderer? I asked, do you believe Jenna is an axe murderer? And the answer to that should be no, because you don't have evidence for it, right?
No, you can't. But see, that's just it, brother. You can't tell me what my answer should be because...
Yes, I fucking can tell you what your answer should be, because if you care about the truth, sir...
No,
yes, I can, and I'm going to mute you so that I can explain this. If you care about the truth, now we have a should situation. Do you care about the truth? If so, then you should do these sorts of things. If you admit, now, all right, I will retract this. Do you care whether or not your view is rational?
Okay, I got a beep in the middle of that, so all I got was care and rational.
Do you care if your beliefs are rational?
Yes, I do.
Then I can, in fact, tell you what your beliefs should be, because anybody, not just you.
Cannot.
Yes, I can. If you'll shut up for 1 fucking second, I'll explain it. Anybody on the whole planet, any rational being, because this isn't about you, Kirby, any rational being who believes that Jenna is an axe murderer without evidence to support that is not rational. That is by definition. It doesn't matter if it's you, if it's me, if it's the person in chat. It doesn't matter. If you hold a belief without evidence, that is simply not rational. That's what I mean when I say if you care, if your beliefs are rational, then you cannot say that you believe Jen is an axe murderer without having an argument and evidence to back that up. Do you understand that?
I understand that, but you're not hearing it. How do I put this? If I see you walking down the street, first thing goes through my mind, if I don't know you, is, am I going to have to fight this dude or not?
That is completely irrelevant to anything I asked.
No, it's not.
No, yes, it is, sir. Kirby, it is in fact irrelevant. Kirby, I'm going to mute you again because I don't want to yell over you. What you're saying is irrelevant. I didn't ask whether you thought Jenna was potentially an axe murderer. I didn't ask if when you meet Jenna, do you wonder whether or not she could be an axe murderer? I said, do you in fact believe that Jenna is an axe murderer? That is a different question. And your answer to that is what?
And the answer to that is, I don't know.
Well,
okay, so hold on.
Then I'm going to hang up on you right after Jenna's done because I'm tired of people who will not answer the question that they're asked.
Kirby, so I understand. Do you? So it sounds. Hold on. It sounds to me like you when judging character. Hold on, Kirby, please. It sounds to me like when judging character of a person that you're encountering that you don't know, you go on the defensive to protect yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I understand that that is a survival instinct, and I can completely understand that. I don't know if that has anything to do with rationality, but that is an instinct, and I can't knock you for that. What Matt's trying to get at is he's not trying to make a point about character. He's trying to make a point to figure out how you determine what is actually true, what actually relates to reality objectively according to everyone. So something that would be an objective truth would be that you and I are having a phone conversation right now. That would be something that neither you and I could deny if we care about what's true. So try to not focus on the character that he's talking about, personality, we're trying to look at objective, just rationality, right? It's an objective, non-emotional subject. Does that help?
Yeah, but it bothers the fuck out of me when somebody tells me what I should or
I understand. I understand
don't
that.
care.
Hello?
I'm not saying hang on. I'm not saying what you should believe in the case of I'm telling you, here's your belief. I'm saying if you want to be rational, then you should never believe anything without sufficient evidence for it. It has nothing to do with you, Kirby. This is true for every brain. If a brain is going to be rational, then it must hold and reserve being convinced until there's evidence for it. You, on the other hand, are convinced there's a God while acknowledging that you don't have evidence for it. And that makes it an irrational belief. If you're fine with having an irrational belief, that's your prerogative. But you said you cared about the truth, and you said you cared about irrational belief. And if somebody comes to me and says, I care about the truth, I care about being rational, I believe there's a God and I have no evidence for it, my answer is, you, sir, are being irrational on that subject, period. It's not even debatable. It is a fact.
He is using rationality, saying, if you care about what is true, then you can't believe X, right? So he is just using a statement to make a rational statement that is just true, but it has nothing to do with emotion.
Okay, I get that. You know,
okay, cool.
And I'm not trying to be a dick. However, it's people believe what they believe. Here, let me put it like this. My issue with religion is that people allow their religion to govern how they treat other people.
Yeah.
In Islam and Christianity, you walk in and you look bad, you're automatically a bum. If you're gay, you're this, you're that. They look down on you. The way I think, look at things, I treat everybody the same till they give me a reason not to treat them the same. Some people get better treatment. Some people get far worse. Talk about rationality and what objective truths. Would you believe it if I told you I have a bullet in my head? Have since 92.
I believe that. Maybe. I have no reason.
No problem taking you at your word for that.
Right.
Okay.
I believe that's possible.
However,
hold on. If I told you it was my best friend that shot me, you'd have to look at me and be like, your best friend shot you? I ain't too sure about that.
No, I would believe if that's what you said.
I'm fine with your story. Yeah. Because those are all things that we know happen. And the only thing that could ever be wrong with me believing your story is if I find out later that it's not true, in which case now I've learned something about your character that you're not trustworthy. But I believe there could also be evidence of that in supporting your story. But when you say you believe there's a God and that you have no evidence and that you're presenting no evidence and that you don't want to debate, that's irrational. That's all I'm saying. I agree with you about religions being racist. I agree with you that people buy into things for emotional reasons. I agree with you that religions disparage people. But if you're somebody who truly cares about whether or not your beliefs are true, then you should not believe anything when there's not good evidence for it. How many other things do you believe without good evidence?
Another thing I'd like to point out is that there are people that are racist that are not religious either. I think that that's unfortunately a human trait, and I don't think that that's necessarily a religious trait. But I'd like to point out that no matter how these people treat you, whether they're Christian or Jewish or Islam, whatever, no matter how they treat you, that has nothing to do with whether or not a God exists.
Okay, and I'm not going to debate that. And as I said, I couldn't tell you why I believe what I believe, but I am.
But that's the whole point of this show, is for people to call in and tell us what they believe and why. And you called in and told us what you believed, and your only reason is because it's a feeling. Now, I don't know how much of the show you've seen before,
I can't. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said, I don't know how much of the show you've seen before, but if you're going to call in and just say, here's what I believe, and I don't have a good reason, why should anybody pay attention?
Why call in?
Who does have a good reason for believing in a God? Nobody.
So far, nobody, but there's plenty of people who think that they do. You don't think you do. And that makes you peculiar because you believe something while knowing and admitting that you don't have a good reason, and you think that that's okay.
I see a problem with that.
At least it makes me aware.
What makes you aware?
Aware of what?
Or it makes me aware because I know what I think, and I know that I can't give you a tangible reason for it. I'm not going to do like these religionists. And
so you know that it's irrational that you believe this at all?
I think you're breaking up. Do I know?
So, I just like to clarify. You're saying that you realize and understand that it is completely irrational to believe that any gods exist, and you're okay with believing it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, it's irrational for me to turn around and go the other way when I see a cop, but I do. So, it's irrational. Hold on.
That's not irrational.
So it's a better safe than sorry fallacy.
That's not Are you an African-American male?
No, I'm a Black American.
Well, I'm sorry.
By the way.
I wasn't trying to. The answer to my question is yes, then.
My family's been in this country for 13 generations. I hate that phrase.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was using the politically correct phrase. I cannot read your fucking mind to figure out which one's going to upset you. I'm just saying that it's not irrational for a black man in the United States to be a little nervous around the police. That's not irrational.
Right.
There's evidence supporting that position.
Okay, I feel you know, but I mean, I drive through a podunk town and feel that way. Like I said.
But that's something you actually have evidence for.
Or what?
So here, let me ask you this, Kirby. If somebody came to you and they said, I believe in Jesus Christ, Jesus is Lord of the universe, and I believe that white people are superior to black people, and I don't have any evidence for either of them, what would you think that either of their positions was rational?
No, because there's plenty of evidence to prove that what they just said was bullshit.
How are you going to prove that Jesus isn't divine?
If he was divine, we'd all know it.
No, that's not true.
Radio show.
That's not true. See, this is the point that I'm making. The people who believe that Jesus is God, they have no more evidence than you have. Actually, they have more evidence than you have, because they at least can point to the anecdotal testimonial evidence of the Bible. You have nothing to point to other than your personal feeling. So you are on weaker ground than the Christians who believe the Bible.
Because their Bible proves what I say.
No, it doesn't.
Never was the Jesus. Yes, it does.
You can't prove that there never was a Jesus. It's an unfalsifiable proposition.
I don't know if there was or wasn't. Personally, I think he's a fairy tale, an amalgamation.
Okay, stop, Kirby. Listen to me. Maybe let's make it clear. You don't know whether Jesus existed or not. You don't have evidence for Jesus existing, so you're convinced that Jesus is a fairy tale, which means when you don't have evidence for Jesus, you've reached a conclusion that Jesus is a fiction. However, you've invented another God based only on your feelings that you also don't have evidence for. So you are now what we call engaging in cognitive dissonance, where you are believing one thing and disbelieving another thing, even though the thing you're disbelieving has slightly more evidence than the thing that you're actually believing. You think that you've proved Jesus isn't real.
The thing I'm disbelieving, and I don't believe Jesus is real because I don't believe Christianity is from God. I believe it's a man-made religion.
See, this is it, Kirby. We're going to stop because you don't care about evidence or reason. You just go with however you feel. And if that's the way you're going to do it, then you just need to own that. And you say, I'm going to believe whatever I feel, but don't pretend like you care about truth or rationality, because you can't and do that.
I thought I did tell you that I believe what I believe. and that as far as truth goes, I don't see what one has to do with the other. I can look up at the sky and see
That's because you don't care about truth enough to understand it. If you believe things and you care whether or not they're true,
know that you're actually there. I mean, things that I have physical proof for and you have physical proof for, I'm not going to argue that. And as far as a God goes, I don't know if there's a God or not. I do believe that there is, but I'm honest enough with myself to understand that
you're not honest. You're not honest with yourself. You're not honest with yourself. That's just a fact. You are honest with yourself to the extent of you believe what you feel is right, but you don't have an understanding of what it is. You don't have an understanding of why you believe. And then you want to say, oh, I don't know, but I believe. Well, let's try and change the word. Are you convinced that there is in fact a God?
No.
That's what believe means. So you don't believe there is a God.
And that's kind of like semantics, because
it's not semantics. It's important. A belief is when you accept a proposition is true or likely true. A belief is the result of becoming convinced. So you've told me you don't know there's a God, but you believe there's a God. And then you said you're not convinced there's a God. Well, convinced and belief are synonyms.
Well, and again, you know how language is used. Give me a better word for believe or belief.
It doesn't.
Well, what are you trying to say? If you're not convinced that there's a God, then what do you believe?
I believe that there may be, and if there is, that God is an asshole who tortures people.
I would agree with that.
No, I take it. Let me rephrase this. I know for a fact that Christianity, Islam, and Judaism were written down by humans.
Yes.
So nobody denies that. Not even Christians deny that.
Bullshit, because I work with a bunch of them. I work with one that's...
No.
Most Christians don't deny that.
University, who will tell you in a heartbeat that what you just said is wrong.
We know most Christians don't deny that. It's
most Christians don't know the first fucking thing about their religion, their holy book, or anything else. I don't care what some average Christian said. It is not a tenet of Christianity that anyone other than human beings wrote the Bible, period. We know this to be true, and Christianity, in all of its various denominations, doesn't make a claim that God wrote the Bible. What they claim is that God inspired the men who wrote the Bible.
Okay, and again, semantics to me.
It's not semantics. Please stop saying it's semantics, because first of all, semantics is the study of what words mean, or more specifically, how words are used. Semantics may be the most important thing that you can understand, and you just keep waving it away like, oh, well, that's semantics. It's not mere semantics. It's the difference between saying this person was not determined to be guilty and this person was determined to be innocent. Those are two very different things.
Well, as I was saying,
no, sir, we're done. Because there's no way I'm going to let somebody do as I was saying. Either we're going to have a discussion where we acknowledge the points and actually discuss it. You don't get to just do well, let me go back to what I said before after I've said something. Did you understand what I just said? Do you agree with it? What's the problem?
Yeah, this is a really, really nuanced conversation, and what we're putting a lot of meaning behind the words that we're using. We're putting a lot of thought behind the words that we're using, because it's very easy to confuse what somebody's actually trying to say with what they're saying. So that's why we try to at least clarify our definitions. If you don't mean what I mean when you say the word believe, we need to at least come to an understanding to where we can agree on the way that it's going to be used.
Probably 10 and 30 minutes of you saying you believe. And then when we finally got down to brass tacks, what you're saying is you believe there might be a God.
But either way, even if these religions were written by men, that doesn't mean that there's a God either. But you had mentioned earlier that God is energy too. I don't know if you want to go back to that.
Well, how do I put this? Everything started off as a singularity, correct? That's how.
What do you mean everything? We don't know how everything started. The current presentation of our universe, explained by Big Bang cosmology, suggests that there was a singularity for our universe, but our universe isn't everything necessarily.
Okay. As I was trying to say, my understanding is that our universe started off as a singularity, a single point in space, just whatever.
No, not a single point in space, a single point. It was time and space.
That's what I just said, man.
No, it's not what you just said.
Okay,
You said
if that's what you meant, then that's what you meant. Now we come to an understanding with what you meant. Okay.
It's not even about what I meant. Matt cut me off before I got the rest of it out.
No, sir. Listen to me. You said a point in space, and I pointed out that what the singularity is a point that is all of space. It's not like there was space and a point expanded into it. All of it expanded. I was just simple correction. You did not say the thing that you thought you said.
Okay, fine. But that's what I'm getting at. And that it expanded. I believe that we are all still a part of that. Everything is a part of that. Everything is connected to a part of that.
Everything that we know of.
In what way? Connected in what way? Because I agree with you in a way where it doesn't matter at all. But if you think that I'm connected in any significant way to the Andromeda galaxy, you're wrong.
And do you know?
You're in the same universe.
Do you know? I mean, your tactic. Do you know that for certain?
No, I didn't say that for certain. What we do understand is that there's no strong connection between A and B until it's actually demonstrated. So until there's a demonstration that I am somehow connected in a strong way with the Andromeda galaxy, then the default position is that I'm not. That's what you do is you establish a default position and a burden of proof. If somebody wants to claim that there's a strong connection between me and Andromeda, they have to make the case. Just like we don't begin by believing that a God exists. You have to actually make the case.
Okay, but that's I can't say that's what I believe because you take it the wrong way, but that's my perception of things.
Kirby, I need to move on to other callers. I'm tired of being told that I take it the wrong way when I would argue that you are speaking imprecisely, and we've tried to correct this, and we've finally got to where we understand it. But it's fine for you to say, I believe this. It's just if we have a 10-minute discussion about you believing it, and then at the end of that discussion, you say, well, I believe that it might be true. You're going to piss me off because we didn't start with it might be true. I don't care what you think might be true. I care what you think is true.
Okay, I apologize.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I wasn't looking for an apology. I just want understanding. This doesn't, none of this has to be confrontational. It's just.
Can I just say this?
Yep.
You're a good dude, Matt, but you're one rude motherfucker. And
okay. You know what?
That shit
if you'd have brought your A game and known what you were talking about, I don't think you'd think that I was rude at all. I think that if you understood that when I was speaking very precisely and you were refusing to answer the questions and you went down a rabbit trail talking about how you believe something, but you don't have good evidence for it. And then after all that, you say you change that to, I believe it might be true. Don't you think you'd be annoyed if you spent a bunch of time explaining something based on what someone said, and then it turns out that they said it wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you also realize that I have 6 other calls waiting and 6,000 people watching, or I don't know how many people watching the show because I'm not in chat, but 5,000, 6,000 people watching the show? Maybe you're being rude by not accepting what we've said from the beginning, or not being able to, or not being willing to just acknowledge that you believe something because you feel it.
Yeah, we're again just maybe go listen to this call again, because there were several parts that I think that you might be able to benefit from it, especially when it comes to, you know, when we're trying to use our words very carefully, because we really want people to understand what we're saying. You know, we don't want to, like he just explained, we don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about something when that's not even what you're trying to say. So maybe go back and listen and kind of try to nail down like a rational statement, like, you know, this is what I believe and this is why. And then we can talk about that, what you actually believe.
Can I ask you one question, Kirby?
Yeah, sure.
Do you recognize that there's a difference between someone saying, I believe God exists and I believe God might exist?
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's a difference between those two and your actual position now is that you believe God might exist, do you also recognize that you started this and maintained throughout the beginning of the conversation that you believed God does exist?
Yeah.
Okay. So you started a conversation with one thing and changed it to another.
I can't just speak. I can't just talk or speak to you guys without my thesaurus in front of me, because you want.
It's not a thesaurus. It's two separate concepts. I believe God exists. I believe God might exist. A thesaurus is irrelevant. Those are two separate concepts. Like I believe the sky is blue and I believe the sky might be blue. Those are two separate things.
Well, actually, the sky ain't blue. And
okay, so this is what this is why what we're saying matters. This is why semantics matter. Let's move on to, we'll come back to the next time.
I find it disturbing that you think the color of the sky was remotely relevant. I was pointing out that there's statement A, I believe X is true. Statement B, I believe X might be true. Those are two different concepts. It doesn't matter whether the sky's fucking purple with pink polka dots. I believe the sky is purple with pink polka dots, or I believe that the sky might be purple with pink polka dots. It's still two different concepts.
Okay, like I said, I apologize for being imprecise. You know, I wasn't trying to be.
It's okay.
And basically, I called to agree with you that the Abrahamic religions are full of shit.
Except that
the basis of it.
The basis of it is unfalsifiable, but in a colloquial sense, I would agree with you. It's bullshit. So thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
Have a good Sunday, Kirby. Oh, Kirby hung up. All right.
Nuance.
It's not even that. It's, I think, and I'm guilty of it. Everybody I know is guilty of it. We all do this, but it's something you have to work towards. There is an imprecision in the way that we talk on a regular basis. And I have spent the last 15 years working to be as precise and accurate as possible. And I get it. Callers aren't going to call in. But when I explain that, oh, you just told me you believed in God. Well, what I really meant was I believe there might be a God, which is also different from I might believe there's a God. And none of those are, if all you wanted to say was, but he didn't. He went with, I believe that God used to be a man who evolved, and eventually we will evolve as well.
Well, but then, yeah, his opinion changed a couple times.
There's to hold specific beliefs like that while acknowledging that you don't have evidence is not rational.
And I wonder what else you believe without.
It's not yeah. That's what I was trying to get to. That's why I was like, well, would you believe Jenna's an ex-murderer?
Right.
Would you believe that, Jesus? Because the Jesus people have a belief that I view as just or also irrational. And yet they at least have a book that makes claims and supposedly has testimonial accounts in there. Kirby doesn't have anything other than what he feels. And so he's automatically on the weakest footing possible. And then to find out that he's not on the weakest footing possible, because it's not so much that he's convinced that there is a God. He just thinks there might be. Well, if I guarantee you, because our call screeners are awesome, I guarantee you he'd have called in and told the call screener, hey, I think there might be a God. I'm not sure that they would have put him through it all. I think they would have had a conversation that said, what do you mean, there might be a God? Are you convinced or not? Because
right.
But and the only time there might be a God call should get through is when the person is saying, I think there is a good case to be made for God being an actual possibility, because I don't even see God as a possibility because that hasn't been demonstrated. Oh, well, what do I know? I'm just a rude prick.